Good evening, councillors. I now open the Governance Advisory Committee on the 12th of May at 6:48 p.m. Could I please call on Councillor Willington, the Deputy Mayor, to read the Acknowledgement of Country.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of the Bidjigal and Gadigal peoples who occupy the Sydney coast, being the traditional owners. On behalf of Randwick City Council, I acknowledge, pay my respects to the elders past and present and to Aboriginal people in attendance today.
Thank you. Councillor Luxford, the prayer.
Almighty God, we humbly beseech you to bestow your blessings upon this council and to direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of the city of Randwick and Australia. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. Before I read the chairperson's announcement, Councillor Martin, can I just confirm that you can hear me?
I can.
Excellent.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll now read the announcement. In accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, I advise that this meeting is being live streamed via Council's website and a person's image and or voice may be broadcast. The live stream recording will be published on Council's website for at least 12 months after the meeting or for the balance of Council's term, whichever is the longer period. Attendance at the meeting is taken as consent by a person to their image and or voice being live streamed. All present should refrain from making any defamatory comments or releasing any personal information about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability for any damage that may result from defamatory comments made by persons attending this meeting. All liability will rest with the individual who made the comments. This meeting must not be live streamed or recorded by others without the prior written consent of Council. Individuals acting in a disorderly manner can be asked by the chairperson, i.e. me, to leave the meeting. Do we have any apologies? I have received an apology from Councillor Hamilton. Okay, thank you. Can I please have somebody move the apologies? Thank you. Moved Councillor Hayes, seconded Councillor Rosenfeld. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. I have a request to join the meeting via audio-visual link from Councillor Martin. Can I please have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Hayes, seconded Councillor Willington. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Can I please have somebody confirm the minutes of the GAC meeting from the 14th of April 2026? Moved Councillor Rosenfeld, seconded Councillor Luxford. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, I'll now deal with items on the agenda. Beginning with, oh sorry, my apologies, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? There being no declarations of interest, councillors, if at any point you wish to make a declaration, please call out and I will take it. I'll now go to items GAC 10/26, draft Randwick Junction Town Centre Planning Proposal, draft Development Control Plan and draft Affordable Housing Plan post-exhibition report. Can I please have somebody move that the report be read and noted? Moved Councillor Gordon, seconded Councillor Burst. Okay, thank you. I'll now throw to the Director of City Planning. Director, could you please elaborate on your report?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, for a number of years, we and yourselves have been working on the review of the planning framework for the Randwick Junction Town Centre to enable redevelopment that respects heritage, that allows for additional housing and additional retail space, allows for uses that activate the public domain and improvements for the public domain, including greening of the centre and creating places for pedestrians. The staff have been working both with you but also with the community over a number of years to get that framework set up. Tonight's presentation is to provide you with information on the final step of that planning process, which is to give you the outcomes of the exhibition and the community consultation that occurred about the planning proposal, the development control plan and the affordable housing plan. Stella this evening will take you through most of the presentation.
Thank you, Meryl, and hello, councillors. As Meryl mentioned, we are preparing the post-exhibition report that's coming to the May Council meeting. The report will outline the details of the submissions that we received during public exhibition, those key issues that were raised, and the proposed amendments to the planning proposal that are included. As Meryl mentioned, the purpose of the slide is to provide an overview, exhibition summary, the key issues raised, and so they're categorised into general community issues raised, landowners, agencies and other stakeholders, and we'll also outline the risks, summary and next steps. So a map showing an outline of the Randwick Junction Centre. It's centred on on Belmore Road, and there's also an extension to High Street.
Just for 1 second, we've just lost our slide. Thank you.
Yeah. So centred Randwick Junction, centred on Belmore Road. There's also retail frontages along High Street and Allison Road, as well as Avoca Street. That's the boundary of the centre, and it's also within a heritage conservation area. So the themes, we've summarised themes, as you'll see further down in the slides, into the different themes raised by submissions, the issues raised by property owners and key agencies. So a recap, exhibition for this planning proposal was for about 2 months, from the 19th of December to the 24th of February. That exhibition commenced after the department issued its alteration gateway determination in October. There were 115 submissions raised. There were actually 92, not 93, general community submissions, 7 landowners and 6 agencies and stakeholders. The key themes from the community submissions are listed on this slide. The key themes mainly were in relation to built form, which was raised in the majority of submissions, and that relates to height and scale of development, parking and traffic and transport issues, overdevelopment, and then there's also concerns about heritage and local character. And there was also comments made about development feasibility from the property owners and the application of the affordable housing contributions. So this is a map showing the location of the property owner requests. So there's seven of them, and the 2 up along Avoca Street. There's 2 on Belmore Road and 1 on the corner of High Street, and there's also the former Labor Club.
So I'll take you through this. Yeah, okay. Councillors, I will take you through now what these requests were and how we dealt with those requests. So as Stella says, you can see we got 7 submissions. The 2 up the top there, I will just give you a very quick overline. What I'll talk about height and stories, because I think that's easiest to understand for you. So the 1 and 2 are up there, surrounded by heritage items on Avoca Street. They were looking for an increase in height from somewhere of 4 to 5 stories to up to 11 to 12 stories. Both 1 and 2 were looking at that. Site number 2 was looking at slightly more. They were looking at somewhere between, I think they're looking at 45 metres, which is about 13 to 14 stories. Belmore Road, there was one landowner, an amalgamation of sites, is looking for a height increase, equivalent density increase from sort of a 6-storey development up to a 8 to 9-storey development. Number 4 is the shopping centre site. They were looking for an increase in height from about that 12 to 13 stories to somewhere up to 16 to 18 stories. Thank you. Number 5 is in Arthur Street. That is outside the planning proposal area. That is subject to the LMR areas. They were looking for a height increase from 9.5 metres to 22, 21 metres, but because they are in the LMR area and R3 zoning, they can achieve that if they were to lodge a development application. Then you've got down on the corner there, which is a number of sites there, 160, 168. Their current heights are 12 to 13. They're looking for a small height increase up to 13 to 14, but a significant increase in FSR to address the affordable housing needs. And then the last one here is the site on Allison Road. It's a former club site. The formal submission that was lodged with council was looking at, which is the largest site, was looking at taking it up to from 10, 11 stories up to 12 to 13 and up to 19 stories, so quite an uplift. Now, what I've got in there as well, as you can see, which you'll hear me talk about a little while, is 7.2, because we also have had ongoing discussions with that landowner about a greater height and a greater density uplift, and we've had some detailed discussions with them around then, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but they were looking at substantial density and with a height of 65 metres, which is well over 20 stories. Right. Now, in looking at these requests, there's a number of things and because the state government position with LMR, with the HDA, has sort of thrown the original way we would do planning and planning proposals in the air, right? So how we have looked at this is we've looked at, based on the two council resolutions there, one was from June last year, one was from February this year, is co-living, as you know, is a real driver for developers at the minute. So in this process, we have looked at creating a bonus to bring in residential over co-living. So that was one thing we've had a look at, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing, of course, is any type of review of the planning controls, we have to be conscious, as of you, they can always subject to the provisions of the SEP. So that SEP gives a 30% bonus for height and FSR if you were providing affordable housing, and that affordable housing's for the 15 years. But they can also get a bonus on FSR if they provide co-living. The other thing, of course, we need to understand as well, we've looked at in this centre, is that five applications within the town centre have lodged applications which exceed the height and the FSR to the Housing Authority, Housing Development Agency, HDA agency, for rezonings and state significant. All those do exceed the controls, all right? So what we've also been doing is seeing in this process, how can we woo those people back, those developers back to lodge their applications with council? So based on this, so then we have taken those considerations when we developed a methodology, so we were consistent and transparent in how we looked at these applications. So the first one there is we looked at, of course, what they were asking for. What were the controls that they were asking for in relation to the context of the centre. We also looked at if we were to increase the height and FSR to address some of the landowners' issues, what would that look like if we put a 30% bonus with the affordable housing provisions? Because we know most developers are using the 30% to get an uplift on their sites with the affordable housing. The staff and I have also have explored introducing, based on those resolutions, a 10% bonus in addition to that 30% for height and FSR where they are providing a residential development, shop-top housing. They're not providing co-living. So we've used that 10% based on the SEP that gives 10% for co-living. So we have used that as sort of a benchmark for looking at 10%, but not only floor space, but also for height. That's also useful to respond because the other things we are hearing constantly is no one can afford to develop because of the cost of construction, because of the lack of staff, because of property prices, etc. The other thing, of course, is consideration that the centre is surrounded by R3 land, of course, is subject to the LMR provisions, which automatically, if you lodge a DA, gives you a height of 6 to 7 stories, and an FSR is 2:1. So based on that, and I guess what we did analysis of looking at all the requests they did. We then looked at what that 40% would look like on top of what was exhibited and the 40% on top of what was requested, knowing that if that's how we would, to understand what it meant on each site. We also then, in part of that, did some consideration, and we didn't do 3D modelling on everything, but a number of sites we looked at what it would look like with each of those existing exhibited controls plus 10%, requested controls plus, 40% plus 40%. So the outcome is what we're suggesting, is that those two properties in Avoca Street, they're surrounded by LMR, so the 22 metres. The site probably does have, both sites have capacity to have their height increase from that 4 to 5 stories to the 6 to 7 stories at 25 metres. With appropriate setbacks, with appropriate transitions to surrounding areas, we think that could work on the site. Now, as you will see there, we're not suggesting any other changes to the exhibit planning controls for 3, 4, 5. I'll just mention the Belmore Road one, the shopping centre site. We are suggesting a change there, but it's in relation to the active street frontage. They've asked it to remove it on Avoca Street because that's where they currently, as you know, that's where you get in and out of the shopping centre. So we've said, okay, that's workable. The one in relation to the Belmore Road, we're not changing their planning controls, but they've asked us to look at the 9% affordable housing rate, of which we'll do. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, this is the former club site. You've got number 1, which was the formal submission they lodged. Number 2 there is what we were exploring in relation to their submission they're lodging with the HDA. So they're lodged with the state government. So what we were working on to see, could we amend the controls to try and address that site and encourage that developer to lodge their application back with council rather than with the department, because it gives us more ability to get a better outcome. Well, it's in our control, better control that's in relation to negotiation and in relation to a better design outcome. Now, following us preparing and finalising this presentation and the report, we now know that because this development application is over a certain value, which is 75 million, which is set within the planning framework, that application cannot come to council. It has to go into the Department of Planning for their assessment and determination. So I might just follow on from here. So just based on, so when we come to here, in relation to the planning proposal and the property owner's requests, the only 2 properties that we are changing is the height on those 2 Avoca Streets, so the 110 and 122A Avoca Street. All right, I'll unpack that a little bit more when we come to it.
So this is a summary table of the key agency submissions. So generally, we had submissions in relation to the pedestrian environment and cycling infrastructure and movement between other centres and this centre. There were comments made by Department of Climate Change in relation to potential impacts of flooding, but we did further work on that, so we've resolved that issue. And there are also comments about heritage assessment, and they've been resolved as well. Homes New South Wales was supportive of the approach, but suggested a higher affordable housing. SES also made submissions. The Randwick Health and Innovation Precinct, they're also supportive. Shelter New South Wales is strongly supportive as well. And we also have comments from other non-government groups and raising concerns about not enough housing being delivered in the centre. Transport for New South Wales raised sort of comments about further work about modelling, and we're addressing that as well. So further work, what we're suggesting as a recommendation is that a public domain study be prepared for the centre. So, and that's to investigate the comments raised by some of the agencies and groups around pedestrian and cycling infrastructure, parking arrangements, street crossings and plantings. And we're also reviewing as Meryl said, the affordable housing rate for that property on Belmore Road. So the development control plan, which also went up for exhibition at the same time. Some minor changes here. There's a proposal for a setback to the rear of properties at 202 and 204 Allison Road. There's details of this in the council report. Sydney Water has requirements for an application for water servicing, which we'll put in there. We're updating some cross sections, and we're also strengthening the active frontages clause, which is in that DCP. So just a list of risks of not adopting the planning framework. Generally, what is important here is that when we have a new planning framework, it carries statutory weight. It also sits in court when we do court cases. So having an up-to-date framework is important. And also protecting heritage properties and where they come up for renewal, and of course the public benefits of having affordable housing opportunities in the years to come. So summary and what we're up to now, the next steps, May Council report. If the proposal is endorsed, it moves ahead to the Parliamentary Council for legal drafting. We send a copy of the planning proposal to the department, and we finalise the legislative changes, and then they're gazetted. And so this is the final stage of the planning proposal.
Can I just get you to take back to sorry, we just missed one crucial slide with you. So in relation to what will, as I say, coming in the report to you at the end of the month is some 4 changes or 3 key changes of property changes, which I've gone through, but 3 other key changes. So the first one there is the introduction, as I talked about, the bonus, a 10% bonus for height and FSR as an incentive to encourage residential accommodation over other forms of residential accommodation. It's removal of the active street frontage on Avoca Street, which I've already mentioned. And then the last one there is to ensure we get design excellence, both for applications that are considered by us, but also applications that are considered by the state government, asking them to be submitted to the various design review panels.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions? So I've got a hand up from Councillor Asghari. I'll then go to Councillor Veach, and then I'll go to Councillor Willington, and then Magna. Councillor Asghari.
Page 13, about key agencies and stakeholder submissions. The Middle Civil Aviation Safety Authority. Can you explain a bit about that, please? The 45-meter height. Key agencies and
Can you speak to the aviation regulators' comments?
It doesn't affect the town centre. So the airport height limit is satisfactory. We don't have any issues with height.
To me, it looks a bit high in regards to airport, so it doesn't apply.
Yeah, it doesn't apply. Yeah.
Okay, thank
And
you.
each development application will have to receive a separate application from a Civil Aviation Authority. Yep.
Councillor Veach.
Thank you. I've got a few questions, so I hope you can bear with me. Where do I start? In terms of the 10% bonus incentive for the residential housing, is there anything else we can do, for example, in terms of parking provisions? Because I understand from K to K that was a key issue. The other question relates to the removal of the requirement for an active street frontage on Avoca Street for the Royal Randwick. That's a really long area. Only part of that is the driveway.
you know, and at the moment that area is just completely dead. I was really pleased to see a provision for active street frontage included in there, and I don't really support its removal. In relation to that same site, I don't know if this is the relevant place, but do you have any comments about provisions for the Margaret Martin Library and whether that size will be increased to take into account population increase? And lastly, do you have any further comments in relation to active transport and cycleways and pedestrian? Because that's just, even before this DCP went on exhibition for years, that's been a key issue for cyclists, that Randwick Junction area is just diabolically unsafe for cyclists and could certainly be improved for pedestrians. So will you be addressing all of the submissions that came in relation to those? Thank you.
To the Director and Manager of Strategic Plan.
So just in relation to, the first question is in relation to the bonus and co-living, all right, and other options. The car parking provisions for co-living are set by the SEP, which is 0.2 per room. So we don't have a lot of opportunities there. We can introduce car parking for co-living for visitors, which we have done through the DCB process. So we are limited there. In relation to the active street frontage on Avoca Street, I'm quite happy, Stella and I are quite happy to look at that to see if we can still maintain some active street frontage, but while also allowing those service provisions to occur. The discussions with the Royal Randwick and the developer is that, yes, we are talking through the Director of Community and Culture and the Manager Library and ourselves with them about the replacement of the library as a bigger library with a different design outcome, and there is some willingness to keep those discussions alive. And then the report that's coming to Council has got a resolution to do a public domain plan for the centre, which will look at pedestrian issues, street widening, links, additional links on public land, cycleways, active transport type of matters. Did you want to add anything?
Thank you. Councillor Willington.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Maybe I have missed this in the previous discussions, and I know this has been a very, very long time in the making, but have there been any discussions at all about opportunities for pedestrian precincts in this development? It would be a very major undertaking, I realise, to change traffic, but a pedestrian precinct somewhere along Belmore Road would be a wonderful thing.
So there was the delivery of the Waratah Plaza recently, and there's activation along that frontage. Short Street was another street which we looked at, and that will be considered as part of the redevelopment of the shopping centre site, and also traffic calming on Short Street to reduce and make it in a shared zone. And there's also through-site links through the sites, and also activation around the Junmore Place, which is the Sandgate Cottage. They're the main ones. Yeah.
Councillor Willington.
Yeah, one more point of clarification. If you could please take me back to the table on page 8. In relation to your comment about the greater than $75 million development has to go to the HDA and can never be a development application, if that's correct?
That is correct. So
can you just go down the numbered table and say which of them that applies to?
Which of them, sorry, I
Which
missed
of
that.
them are the over 75 million?
So, or which is an HDA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Which is an HDA.
So,
which is a mandatory HDA?
where's the clicker? Sorry. Okay, site 1, site 2, site 4 and site 7 are all HDAs.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? Otherwise, I've got a Councillor Magner. I'll then go to Councillor Rosenfeld and Councillor Woods.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yep, similar questions to Councillor Beach. The active frontage, if there is scope for public vehicle access, presumably, but activation, because that would be inconsistent with what I understand is our planning principle. I'm also curious about the public domain study and how that can be funded, and the pedestrianisation, the active transport links, the street planting and the other benefits that we'd hope would be delivered. Will that be funded by developer contributions or the study funded? And a further question, will it involve the demolition for the Royal Randwick? Are you aware as to what their plans are in terms of the stage delivery of that and how much disruption there's likely to be for the community during the development phase? And finally, if you could tease out a little bit more about the logic behind the Allison Road site, what benefit do we get as a council in a better outcome for the community and the proposal that you're planning to take?
Okay. You do the first two.
Through to the
You do
director.
the first two, I'll do the last.
Thank you. The comments around the active frontages clause, and yes, we will maintain, obviously Belmore Road will maintain the active frontage, but we will relook at the rear. But associated with that was your question around the Royal Randwick Shopping Centre redevelopment. It could be, we don't have any plans, there's nothing's been submitted to the department. We don't know if it's a wholesale demolition or if it's a part demolition and staged. That's, yeah.
Thank you.
They have said it won't be for at least 2 to 3 years before any type of work will happen on the site. They've given us that indication. In relation to why is it better that council does the assessment than it's sent into the department? So with an HDA or a state significant development, there are a couple of checkpoints that the council gets. One is when they're starting to develop the framework of what the assessment needs to look like, we get an opportunity to provide a submission on what we think that the development needs to look at. So it could be everything from access, waste, interface with adjoining areas, design, a few things like that. Then the second time we get a comment is when it is on exhibition like the rest of the community. We cannot guarantee, councillor, that any of those matters are taken into consideration by the department. So if we are the assessment body, I guess we maintain a level of control. So we can talk about getting the right built form outcomes, we get access, how the interface and connection with surrounding areas work, looking at heritage considerations, which often seem to be dismissed these days, as well as what type of public domain improvements can we get the developer to do, because it's as a result of the development. Also, if we are in control of those processes, we have a greater ability to negotiate, to achieve better design outcomes, because we use our design review panel in relation to give us comments to get a good solution, and then we can go in to discuss that with a developer.
Thank you. One follow-up and then I've got a question.
Is it possible that there's an opportunity for there's a degree of cynicism about the affordable housing and the time limit there? Is there scope for council to request affordable housing in perpetuity be provided as part of the development? And did I read it right that there's 56 houses in the area? Is there any housing in perpetuity as part of the
Yes, our affordable housing plan has, we've modelled about 64 dwellings could come out of the planning proposal based on the affordable housing rates. They are in perpetuity, and then there's additional affordable housing that may be proposed by the developers, and they're the 15 years, so that's in addition to the 60 odd that will come out of our modelling. If there is more density, there'll be greater affordable housing. Yep.
Councillor Rosenfeld.
That's my question's actually already been asked by Councillor Magna. I didn't realise I was going to ask about knockdown rebuild of Royal Randwick Shopping Centre, which has more or less been asked and answered. So all good.
Yep.
Thank you. So now it's Councillor Gordon. And then I've got a councillor.
Thank you. Noting that on sites 1 and 2, the height of building control was amended to reflect the changed planning controls in the surrounding area with the 22 metre low mid-rise areas. Since it's been quite some time since this document was originally drafted and exhibited, noting that there are a number of changes to controls, including with the LMR provisions and with significant development sites within and nearby to the town centre, have you considered the opportunity to review HOB and FSR controls to reflect the changed context of the planning controls around those sites?
Is your question around the controls in the town centre?
Yeah,
Or
yes,
surrounding?
Just has there been any review of those controls in the context of the amended controls outside of the sites?
Yes, so with all the property owner requests, there was consideration of the permissibility outside of the town centre, and that's the example of sites 1 and 2, which have increased.
Sorry, just to clarify, this is regarding the whole town centre, not just sites that have been subject to requests.
Okay, so thank you, Councillor Gordon. Sorry, we didn't get. Now I understand what you're asking. Yes, we did. So when we bought the department issued us a gateway in February 2025, and part of that gateway condition was that we reviewed the planning provisions for all the sites within the town centre. So what has been exhibited is a review of those first developed controls in the original PP. So we have reviewed them, yes.
Councillor Wellington.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, through you. I'm sure this is done, but could you please advise how much modelling has there been in relation to the increased population and the provision of childcare, schools and health for these people?
Through to the relevant officer.
Infrastructure study.
There was consideration early in the process when we were preparing the planning proposal with the associated studies that were done and the consideration of the state requirements and our LSPS and our strategies. So consideration for social infrastructure was considered as, for example, the library and open space transport infrastructure, and the exhibition included submissions from some of those agencies. We didn't hear from schools infrastructure, but we did notify them as well.
But I'll just add to that, so not specifically directed to this planning proposal, but Stella Strategic Planning have just, with other relevant groups of council, have just done and we're doing an infrastructure study to look at the impacts of increased population growth, not only on sort of the engineered type infrastructure, but on the libraries, on childcare centres, on community facilities. So we're in the process of winding that study up, and that will be brought to council. Yep.
Are there any further questions?
Sorry,
Councillor
I'm going to
Magna.
ask another one. How the design excellence component, has that been eliminated from the design requirements? And also the activation on Arthur Lane, that was originally something that we had as a requirement. What's the status of that? And finally, the nighttime activation area, how does that fit into these plans?
So just on the first point, I'll talk about the nighttime activations. There is a separate report coming to council on nighttime activation, but it is a consideration in terms of active uses on the ground floor. We are looking, that is a strategic objective for this centre, to have nighttime projects. The design excellence provision was removed by the Department of Planning in the first round of gateway determination, and they said that there is their reasoning is that there is existing clause in the current LEP about design excellence, so each application can be determined under that clause, design excellence. But we are proposing, as part of this, the changes here is to include a clause which requires major developments to go through the state planning design process, so a clause in our LEP, and if not there, then our local Randwick design excellence provisions.
Can I? Sorry, are there any further questions of councillors before I ask one? Councillor Magna.
Street.
And I think pedestrianisation
That will make a mental note and have that looked at the public domain study, if that's endorsed.
Thank you. So I just have, I think, one, potentially two questions. Noting that we've been engaging with site owners in relation to this specific plan, have any actually identified an intention to elect to use the co-living provisions?
I can answer this one. Yes, they have. That was in relation to site number 7.
Site number 7.
Site, which is the former club site. So their original discussion with me, they've already got an HDA in, so they came back and they spoke to staff about reviewing that. Yes, they did talk about co-living, and we asked them to revisit their business model.
Right. And for the sites which are not seeking to elect co-living provisions but have sought increased height, I take it that they go to the viability of the particular developments? And all of them relate to proposals with residential components in it?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, thank you. I'll now move that, can I have, that I'll now put the question that the report be read and noted. All those in favour, so actually as a planning matter, even though it's silly, I'll just put our hands up. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. We now move to GAC 11/26, La Perouse Museum Strategic Plan and Collection Policy. Could I please have a mover? Move Councillor Luxford, seconded Councillor Magna, that the report be read and noted. I will now throw to the manager to please elaborate on her report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, councillors. So tonight I am pleased to present an outline on the La Perouse Museum strategic plan and updated collection policy. So the purpose of this report responds to a council resolution from the 29th of April 2025, whereby council resolved to endorse the vision for the La Perouse Museum and headland become a First Nations cultural precinct, and then to proceed to formal planning process in partnership with the La Perouse Local Aboriginal Land Council. So the purpose of tonight's presentation is to outline the La Perouse Museum Strategic Plan 2026 to 2029 and to provide councillors with an update on the renewed and slightly updated collection policy. Collectively, these two documents provide a really firm bedrock for the good governance and future direction of the museum as it continues its trajectory towards a First Nations cultural precinct and really council's primary cultural institution. So a bit of background and context. The La Perouse Museum was taken over by Randwick City Council as managers in 2017 from National Parks, and now has been operating as a key cultural institution since 2017 up to now. And from this date, the artistic, education and public programming is really strong at the museum. The program is fully booked out for the next 2 years with programs, education programs, events and activations that all reflect the museum's key themes and its unique situation on Bidjigal country at La Perouse. Visitation continues to increase. Since its relative hiatus in 2025 due to capital works, visitation has now increased by over 16 to 17% than visitation prior to the closure. As program continues to be developed, and also the diversity of visitation increases as well. And there is increased professional staffing at the museum, which now includes a head La Perouse Museum, a curator, First Nations, a museum officer who also acts as a collections manager, and now a visitor experience officer who's greatly improving the front of house experience. The strategic plan in front of councillors is informed by a range of documents, many of which have been endorsed or have been publicly accessible for significant periods, which include feasibility reports, 2 business plans, and a whole swathe of outcomes that have emerged from the museum's activity over the last 9 years. It's also important to note that the La Perouse Museum has had the great fortune of being funded now by Create New South Wales, who recognise the museum's program as of state significance, with part funding over 2026 and 2027 for the program. And throughout all of these elements, the museum remains and continues to build a First Nations focus in line with the Council resolution. So what, in summary, is the strategic plan? So it is quite an extensive document. It is very much based on best practice, and it meets Create New South Wales state and federal museum management guidelines. For Councillors' note, this is the first time the museum has had a specific strategic plan, which is pretty much bread and butter for most museums and galleries operating at professional level. It is governed by the Arts and Culture Strategy 2022 to 2032, and it includes an updated vision and mission for the museum and a strategic pathway and framework and goals. Critically, there are 5 key areas of activity and onward development, which include First Nations, exhibitions, public programs, collections, and education. Pretty much what it's doing now. I will read out the vision and mission, as this is the bedrock and also a reflection of what the museum has evolved to. So the vision: we are a site where history is active. We build community by connecting with country and sharing a diversity of perspectives. We are a hub where the unique histories of this area converge to inspire social and cultural action. And the mission to achieve the vision: we are an anchor institution and community. Through headland-wide programming, we advocate for country and culture by facilitating dialogue that is open and authentic. We strive to inform and engage a national and international audience. And it's important to note that this sort of language is reflected in the International Council of Museum, or ICOM, recommended mission statements for museums and galleries across the globe. So the next couple of slides, it's my pleasure to welcome Wesley Shaw, who is our acting head La Perouse Museum and also our curator First Nations, to take councillors through some of the key goals, as mentioned, as those key parts of the strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne, Mr Mayor, councillors. Before I jump into the strategic plan, I know I've met a few of you before, but I haven't met everyone in the room. So my name's Wesley Shaw. I am in Blake's Place the acting head of La Perouse Museum, but I'm also a Dharawal man from La Perouse. So my Nan grew up on the mission. She's the last of 7 siblings. Some of you who may know her late brother, Uncle Chicka Dixon, and Uncle Athol Dixon, who were really staunch advocates for the rights of Aboriginal people across the country, and particularly La Perouse. So having the opportunity to work with family and community in my role, I've really cherished as a career highlight to date. And I should mention some notes for the outgoing head of the museum, Blake Griffiths. He was another really key reason I joined the museum. His future vision for the institution, along with the development of this strategic plan, was one of those kind of driving forces for me to coming to Randwick City Council. So it's with my pleasure that I'm standing in his place here tonight to present the key goals for our strategic plan. And although there are a number of goals here, I won't go in tenuous detail into all of those. I'll just pull out some key touch points, and again, if you have any questions, happy to field those or hand those over to Rox or Katie following. So our first strategic goal relates to collection initiatives. Within this, there's 5 goals, and I'd like to tonight focus on the digitisation of the collection, achieved through the action of establishing basic photographic studio for digitisation initiatives. Since reopening last October, we've had the pleasure of welcoming our inaugural Elder-in-Residence, Dr. Peter Mackenzie, and offering him a studio space at the museum. For those of you who don't know Peter, his artistic career spans almost 5 decades now. He's pushing 81 years old, and his collection is held in institutions across the country, namely the Art Gallery in New South Wales and IATSIS in Canberra. And while he's exhibited in places like the Centre Pompidou in Paris and at numerous exhibitions across the country, this is really his only second solo show that will be presented at La Perouse Museum in a couple of weeks, and is the culmination of his residency with us. So you can imagine, I think he picked up the camera in 1982 after receiving a grant to travel to Clark University in Massachusetts, and hasn't stopped photographing since. So his archive spans in the tens of thousands of negatives, slides and prints, predominantly vernacular photography of everyday experience or lived experience from our LGA, particularly that of the La Perouse Aboriginal community. And this collection, this archive, has never really been digitised. So we're working with Peter over this coming year to begin scanning in all of those prints and negatives and slides so that this collection is available to the public for generations to come. So if you can, in 3 weeks now, Peter will be presenting a small display of this archive on exhibition at La Perouse Museum. One of the other key goals that I'd like to draw out a bit is the increased tertiary engagement with collection and museum. One of the key actions here is to offer museum and heritage studies internships programs through the University of Sydney. But we've also, since opening Jack Styles' Speculative Telegraphics, which is a temporary exhibition on level 1, we've had almost weekly engagement with the National Art School, bringing in ceramics and drawing students to undertake drawing studies of Jack's show. Every other week we have UNSW in because they have a long-standing relationship with local elder Auntie Maxine Ryan, so they participate in walks on country and then come into the museum to engage with our collections. And earlier this year we had a 20-day internship with French-Australian national Orion Thoral, who during that 20-day period worked with our museum officer Yuan to develop interpretive content for namely our French collection, which in turn was offered to the public and education audiences as a 45 minute to 1 hour tour through the museum. So tracking really well with some of those actions and looking forward to 27. The next strategic goal relates to First Nations arts and cultural practice. I'd like to talk about the delivery of innovative and engaging exhibition programs. So since joining the museum last June, Blake and I have been working on the development of an exhibition series titled LA Plus, which is an exhibition series that really platforms La Perouse artists and cultural practitioners and places them in dialogue with broader Southeast and nationally renowned Indigenous artists. So the first of this series will be the show in a couple of weeks titled LA Plus 001 Mackenzie and Croft, where Peter Mackenzie is presenting a series of photographs from his masters back in 1993 that document the La Perouse United Football Club, and they'll be presented alongside a series of large-scale works on metal by renowned artist Brenda L. Croft, in which she documents 25 La Perouse women originally presented as part of Sydney Festival in 2019. So this first step towards becoming a First Nation cultural precinct and a really strong showing of, or a really strong homecoming of photographic works by some really renowned artists. That will be followed by LA Plus 002, Cooley and Snelgar, which is a community engagement project between Bidjigal artist Michael Cooley and Nyampa carver Andy Snelgar, who's based on the Mid-North Coast. And since last November, they've been delivering a community engagement program where they support a group of young men connected to the La Perouse Aboriginal community to maintain the practices of shield making synonymous with La Perouse and the broader southeast. So really 2 exciting projects to launch LA Plus this year. The second key goal I'd like to discuss is increased audience engagement with La Perouse Museum, collection, exhibitions and headland. And for those of you who haven't been down on the 26th of January to our Culture on Country event, there was an image in one of the previous slides which was 2025, I think, Roxanne. So between 2025 and 2026, engagement with that event has or did double this year. And that comes down to the multidisciplinary approach to looking at performance, music, cultural practice, and really a broader offering to our community and to rival events like Yabin and Black Powerhouse, and not to compete with them, but to understand who our audience and who our community is, and that kind of that homage to the grassroots genesis of events like Yabin, which really started out at Yarra Oval back in the early 90s. So looking forward to how that event grows over the coming 4 years. These are a little bit tiny to read, but the third strategic goal relates to our exhibitions and increasing reputation of delivering high quality exhibitions to sector. And we're doing this through increased engagement of artists, curators and historians. Notably this year, the invitation of French-Australian curator and artist Annabelle Lacroix, who programmed Transmission Point, which was an exhibition that brought together Sydney-based sound artists with French sound artists to present an exhibition that honours the rich histories of transmission on the headland and on the as does relate to the museum itself as the cable station, and to create works that really create dialogue across continents and bring audiences together through shared ideas of listening. The fourth strategic goal relating to public programs, I think the museum as a site since reopening last October, as Roxanne mentioned, has increased in audience engagement, but we're starting to pilot what an activation of the Macquarie Watchtower would look like. And during the opening weekend of Transmission Point, there was a presentation by Sydney-based sound collective Circle, who were offered the Watchtower as a pilot residency program. So they had open access to the space and developed new work, which was presented as part of the public programming of Transmission Point, and really was a testing ground to look towards 27 and beyond to offer 6 residencies across a 12-month period, where there's a nominal fee awarded to each of those applicants, but it's really open access to that site to begin activating it. And I know there's been historical examples of spoken word and performance and music that have really drawn a crowd to that site. So really looking forward to how that grows in the coming years. And the final strategic goal relates to our education programs. Namely, a program that we're kind of in the middle of at the moment. So in October, there will be an exhibition of shell work by Auntie Marilyn Russell and Auntie Maxine Ryan. And as part of that exhibition, Auntie Maxine is currently working with the Gurrewal Elders Corporation and a group of young students from La Perouse Public School to foster intergenerational exchange and knowledge about the histories and the practices of shell work synonymous with La Perouse. And they're creating new works for that exhibition. And really, they're going to be presented alongside some never really seen before significant historical works from the 1800s by Queen Emma Timbry. So an exhibition that, looks at that unbroken practice of shell work in La Perouse. So lots to do, lots to see this year, and hopefully we'll see you all in a couple of weeks at the opening. Thank you. Roxanne?
Thank you. Very comprehensive. Thank you.
Thank you, Wes. And as the goals outline, that's really there's 5 full years of rich and diverse planning across the museum, which is also encapsulated in the updated collection policies. So the collection policy sits alongside the strategic plan and provides another foundation document that recognises the themes, the 5 themes of the La Perouse Museum, and just to sort of really touch on Wesley's point that La Perouse is an incredible nexus of enduring First Nations culture, but also, of course, a French connection with the 6 weeks that La Perouse was there, which has left a long and enduring legacy with our community, both in the city of Randwick and beyond. And of course, there is the science and communication, the environment and social history. So all of these work together to build what is really for Randwick City Council a unique cultural jewel. And so the policy has that vision and mission and themes, and this also defines the collecting practice. So it also introduces principles of cultural sensitivity and consultation, and the collection policy and the strategic plan have been presented and endorsed by the La Perouse Museum and Headland Trust. So in terms of risk, I will just give a couple of call-outs here for councillors. The first would be a feeling of lack of community input into these strategic documents. And the mitigation for that is both the collection policy, now twice endorsed and having gone through a Have Your Say in 2020, plus a strategic plan being developed by publicly informed documents, already have strong public visibility, and the Trust and, of course, our senior executive team have reviewed these documents. And the other one, critically, would be a misalignment potentially with our funding body, but given that this is very much one of the key requirements of a museum, showing that how it really reflects the rich cultural sector and identity of its area, as mentioned, from Aboriginal, French and ongoing, it is supported by Create New South Wales. So the next steps, as mentioned, now there is potentially a strong, robust operational and strategic framework capturing the many layered histories of the area of La Perouse. Next steps will be a report to the May Council for, hopefully, council endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillors, are there any questions? I'll go to Councillor Veach.
Thank you very much. And look, the museum's just been going from strength to strength, and I'm so excited to see what the future holds, building on all of the great work. This is a little bit of a technical question, I guess. Is this essentially a strategy that sits in line with the other strategies? You know, there's just quite a subtle difference in some of the language in terms of goals. I mean, is this going to be reported back on our quarterly operational reports, updates? You know, are these goals actually outcomes? Or is this just a plan that's a little bit more, that just doesn't have that sort of hard reporting outcome?
It's a good question. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. This plan is very specific to, obviously, the La Perouse Museum and its operations, and it will help us also inform the budget planning process for each succeeding year. It's very much governed by, obviously, the arts and culture strategy. The museum has 2 strategic approaches in that. This is the first stage of how we embed the strategic plan. So if endorsed, we will then look at ways of actually including in some of the reporting language without obviously altering those strategies to ensure that they are being measured and reported against at this point.
Thank you. There's a follow-up from Councillor Veach. I'll then go to Councillor Rosenfeld.
So this does sit at the level of a strategic plan and it is reportable?
It is. It sits. It's informed by the Arts and Culture Informing Strategy, so it's formed through that, and it defines the operational activities of the La Perouse Museum per annum. This is the first step, and after that, we will look at whether we need to include more indicators that maybe aligns with the progress reports to ensure that this is reported back on. At this point, we haven't yet locked in a actual accountability program for that. That would be the next step.
So there's no reporting back. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say, is a goal just something we would like to happen, or is it something that we are actively going to work to happen, and then it's going to be reported back? every quarter.
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Veitch, to answer your question, this plan sits to the side in terms of the integrated planning and reporting. So as you know, there's the 7 informing strategies, and then off to the side we have another number of plans like the DAP, and this will be another one of those plans. However, there is metrics in this document that will be duplicated as part of the quarterly reporting, and similar to those other plans that sit alongside, what we'd look to do is bring a report back to Council probably on an annual basis like those other plans.
Thank you. Councillor Rosenfeld.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, all the French permanent, or there were permanent exhibitions, are they all retained, and are they all going to be on display as well as obviously on the new Aboriginal displays that we've been talking about? So are they going to be, still be around, because there's some magnificent French artefacts from that history?
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor. The French ongoing story, remains a critical part of the identity of La Perouse, and obviously is one of the key themes of the museum. The new exhibition in the galleries very much has the French theme all the way through that. There is a commitment to have a significant French exhibition every 2 years or so. Through the museum, and I acknowledge that I'm speaking for Blake and team, that we are talking to the Lycée Condorcet about continuing their relationships, and of those objects that are authentic and are worthy of exhibition, they will certainly be included, whether in temporary exhibitions or part of the ongoing enduring themes of the museum display. But they'll always be accessible, and there'll always be the French story available to community for those that visit, and indeed in our programming as well.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you for your presentation. It's been fantastic. I'm just looking at page 14 in attachment 2, and it's on a page called Our Audience. And over here in the corner, it's got 4.3 key statistics, and I'd really like you to explain them to me. It says performers in the Randwick local government area 4 times Sydney average. Total creative and cultural workforce, 7% of Randwick local government local government area workforce, and creative and cultural industries, 331 million gross value added. What does that mean? What performers 4 times the Sydney average of what?
Through to the manager.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to Councillor. These have been taken from various state resources. What I can do is take this on notice and actually report back to you on where the actual sources came from. But it's really based on the cultural economic work that the Committee for Sydney and Create New South Wales have put out. I will come back to you with the actual resources of where these were cited.
It does say credit Australian Bureau of Statistics. I'm not questioning the veracity of the statistics. I'm just trying to understand what they mean.
Thank you.
But yes, I'll look forward to you.
Okay, well, yeah, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you for your report, Roxanne. My question is, looking at page 27, the strategic plan, 25 to 29, where has the terminology 5 pillars gone? It seems to have disappeared. We've got a thing now called 5 areas, but the other 4 pillars seem to have been chopped off in some way. I don't see them anywhere. There's no clear visibility around those other 4 pillars.
Thank you, Councillor. They remain enduring as in with the collection policy.
But where do we state that in this document, that it's part of the,
Apologies.
Yes.
part of the brief?
Thank you. 2 things, Councillor Bruce. Could you sit down? Sorry, I just can't see the manager. And then please proceed, Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. So the 5 areas in the strategic plan are very much aligned with the museum key areas of activity, but the museum remains informed by the 5 key themes as in the collection policy. So that has not changed. The pillars remain enduring, and that continues to inform the museum's activities, programs and exhibitions.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? A question from Councillor Magna.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm just interested in the governance arrangement and the co-management model that you have with the Lapurus Aboriginal Land Council. Has that been formalised for the project delivery, or could you tease that out? And another follow-up and totally unrelated question, will climate adaptation be part of the vision, and how does that fit into the future plans, given the sensitivity of the site and its location?
Thank you, Councillor. To answer your first question, the Randwick Council was now starting a conversation for the governance and operational model with the Lapurus Land Council following endorsement and this development of the plan, and conversations are starting to look at what that co-management model will look like. We'll certainly report back to Council when ready on the outcomes of that. And thank you again also for a question on sustainability and climate. I think that's a critical one that's affecting museums across the globe. That will certainly be considered as part of the concept development and delivery of the future precinct.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? There is one follow-up.
To the director, not to the director, it's the manager. You're talking about co-management. Will Randwick Council manage the museum, or will it be managed with someone else? And how would they be funded and paid for?
Thank you. Please sit down.
Thank you to Councillor. I appreciate the question. As per my response to Councillor Magna, it's a very important question, and very early conversations are now starting to happen with the Lapurus Local Aboriginal Land Council on what an appropriate co-management model will look like for the future of the museum, and we will report back to Council once we have, when we're ready to, with what that model will look like for consideration.
Thank you. There is one follow-up. I'll then go to Councillor Luxford.
Will the Land Council be providing funding as a co-partnership with this, into this program?
Thank you.
Again, Councillor, thank you for the question. We would imagine that that would be a critical point to discuss from early inception to explore what the co-management would look like.
Thank you. Councillor Luxford.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just a bit confused on the co-management bit, because I don't recall that we ever discussed co-management model. So where did that exactly come from? Or was I not there when it was... Well, I missed one meeting, I think, because I was ill, but yeah.
Through to the Director of Community and Culture.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. That was per Council's resolution.
Thank you. Sorry, through to the General Manager.
Thanks, Councillor. I think where the confusion may lie, and my apologies for that, is that the co-management they're talking about, should there ever be a new museum next to it, which we've been talking about, should that ever be funded, we're looking at co-managing that with the Lapurus Land Council. We're not looking at co-managing the current museum that we currently have now. So we've been talking about what would a new museum look like, a proposed new museum, should we get over $100 million in funding, which is a long shot, but should that happen, that we're looking at how we would co-manage that. The current museum, we're looking at the council maintaining the management of that. And just to follow up on a couple of questions, if I may, the strategic plan is as a result of a council resolution. So the first paragraph of the executive summary talks about a council resolution saying to endorse the vision of the Lapurus Museum and Headland to become a First Nations cultural precinct. That's what the strategic plan does. The actual collection policy has the 5 pillars in there. So if you have a look at the collection policy, it talks about the 5 pillars. They're maintained in our collection policy for that. The strategic plan is as per the council resolution for us to go and develop that. And we need to do that, councillors, A, to get the 88-year lease from the government, because everything has to be regarding First Nations when we're doing that. And also how we get funding for the museum. The current museum, not talking about the proposed new museum, how we get funding for the new museum is all based on First Nations in doing that. And we've also spoken to the French consul about that, and they've advised they have no money to give us either.
Thank you. Councillor Said, a follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question that, considering that the visitation is increasing and the exhibitions are getting bigger and better, will there ever be like a business plan that will come with this, like charging for visitation or some way of recouping the funds? Because it looks like we're hiring extra people, the exhibitions are getting better, there's obviously a couple of works to be done. Will we be charging, or is there a business case that maybe we can get bigger grants or as much as Cornell has got, or charging a getting or something?
All excellent questions, thank you, Councillor, and one that every museum would like to have immediate answers for as well. Certainly as part of this process and journey towards a First Nations cultural precinct, a funding strategy will be developed as part of the early planning processes, and the museum, particularly now that it has really elevated its profile and output, we will certainly be working with staff to seek external funding to support ongoing program and development.
Thank you. There being no further questions, thank you very much. I'll now put the report that it is read and noted. All those in favour? All those against, declare that carried. Well done. I now call for a mover of GAC/12/26, Community Halls and Venues, Fees and Charges 26/27. Do I have a mover that the report be read and noted? Moved Councillor Gordon, seconded Councillor Asgari. Thank you. I'll now move to the manager of events.
Thank you.
Could you please elaborate on your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Development. My apologies.
It's fine. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to provide Council with an outline on the proposed new venue and community halls and fees and charges. So the purpose of this report is to respond to a council resolution from 29th of April 2025, whereby council resolved to endorse the Community Halls Management Service Review and all the recommendations within that review, including short and longer term recommendations. And further to that, more resolutions to explore looking at fees to increase utilisation of halls, particularly during off-peak hours, to improve infrastructure and to conduct an AV audit of our venues to improve customer experience and capacity. And lastly, particularly to the Randwick Town Hall, to consider a creative purpose fit-out, including infrastructure such as lighting, sound deck, etc., noting that it has evolved into a creative space. So the purpose is to provide an update to councillors on fees and charges, simplified user types, and respond to those resolutions with an overall outcome, as you can see, manifold outcome of improved customer experience with simplified fee structure that really helps people use our venues more, and also improves the administration processes, which was flagged as a key need as part of the service review. So a very short summary in context. Randwick Council manages a portfolio of 17 community halls and venues that cover from the top of the valley all the way down to the South Ward and vice versa. They are much loved by the community that use them. They are valued assets and they have enormous potential. And this is what some of these resolutions address and we will respond to. As mentioned, this report responds to the service review for community halls and outcomes, some of which have already been implemented. The new booking platform is now fully embedded into the council website, and it's now a one-stop shop for accessing our diverse venues, and we've already seen improvements in management time and administration, as well as a stronger uptake in users using the system. Alongside that, findings did identify confusing and inefficient booking systems, some complex management processes across teams, and too many user types, and a huge variable in venues, fees and charges, some of which were variable even within a singular venue. So the actions that have been taken is that a comprehensive audit has been conducted of our community halls and venues by our venues team working with the IT team and maintenance across the portfolio, and also a thorough audit of the current fees and charges. The audit fees and charges benchmarking included looking at low uptake by community groups, areas of low use, and establishing like-for-like criteria, including condition of the venue or hall, location, amenity, or any particular offering that made that hall unique, and of course looking at market rates like-for-like both within and externally for our venues' fees and charges. So a new classification system is now proposed to bring them all together into a 4-tier structure, venues A to D, and with that an alignment of fees and charges. So the next few slides, councillors, is a summary of the fees and charges and the proposed new fees and charges for each of the key tiers. And I start with our flagship tier, venues classification A. Now there are two venues in here, the Prince Henry Centre and the Randwick Town Hall. As per the criteria, these are flagship because they have high prestige, enormous space variability, good amenity, good parking, and also they require a degree of staffing as well. And you can see in this that the 2025-26 fees and charges range from 359 to 428, and the proposed new fees and charges, and this is for private use during the weekday per hour, is $250, which puts very much into the market rate and responds also to both venues having strong community feedback that current fees at that rate are prohibitive for use, particularly for the Town Hall, which had a very low user community uptake until the time where it's been repurposed as a creative space. On the right column, and this is consistent throughout, you can see the increased percentage or negative where there's a lower cost for each of the proposed fees. The bottom table is for not-for-profit, which basically includes charities and those that can prove that they are not-for-profit. Private includes community, singular use, and also commercial. Venues classification B are still pretty sophisticated, well fit out and desirable venues. In this we have the main hall at Randwick Community Centre, the two Kensington Community Centre halls, the relatively new Matraville Youth Hall, and the two very exciting new venues that have come through volunteering planning agreements with the Scape developer at the Todman precinct, which will come online for usage in the new financial year. And you can see here that there is now a proposed new rate of $85 per venue. Again, that's based on the median current rates and charges. Some do go slightly up, but this is also to bring them up to market value while keeping the median consistent across these this classification. So this is for private, and you can see again the increase or decrease for some of the venues. And this is for classification B, not-for-profit. Again, a similar algorithm for changes and the percentage changes for the new fees and charges, noting the variability in the left column and the consistency based on median rates in the middle column. Classification C are good venues. Some of them have relatively good usage during certain times of the day. There are some that are requiring further upgrade. They may be a little bit less visible, have little parking or minimal amenity, and this includes the venues on the left. And you can see here quite a strong variability for venues with similar amenity, space and availability, and the proposed median new rate for private usage weekday per hour is $60 per hour. As you can see here that there is some increase for some, and I will talk a little bit about Malabar Memorial Hall, but also some savings for other venues. Malabar Memorial Hall does have quite a significant increase, and this is primarily due to a major upgrade of that venue to happen in the next financial year, which includes better fit out, accessibility, a lift, and other aspects which make it a much more desirable and highly used venue. You can see the weekend rate below, which is a similar algorithm. And this is the not-for-profit usage for the same venues to $30 an hour weekday per hour and $35 an hour per weekend usage. Weekend, by the way, goes up by 15%, so it's a pretty marginal increase compared to some other councils in the benchmarking we looked at. And again, in this area, these are all medium, and some do go down quite significantly, and some there are slight rises. And venues classification D, this is the area where I'd like to see them all improve in their class reports. These are quite interesting venues. Some have real challenges with access, with amenities. Some don't have internal toilets, for example. But all are on part of our audit, which I'll talk about in a minute, to improve those venues. Randwick Literary Institute is an interesting inclusion in classification D. This is primarily because there are significant problems with the building's access and condition, whilst being an iconic, really quite beautiful portfolio addition. We are going through a feasibility work on that venue with a report back to council eventually for how to really maximise this beautiful venue, and we would hope that its grade will improve, but currently it sits at D for those particular reasons. So this is the private. You can see it's $30 an hour weekly per hour, and for weekend rates by 44. And for not-for-profit, a really hopefully quite affordable $19 per hour during the weekday and $22 per hour for weekday hire. We have a minimum currently of 3 hours usage for bookings, just to allow better use of that space and also to allow bump in and bump out. Regular users have a minimum booking of 1.5 hours. To respond to the council resolution to look at ways of lowering rates and for off-peak usage to increase community uptake, the thorough audit looked at where there were quiet periods, and the time between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Was common across many of the venues, excluding venue A, where at Prince Henry this was still a very busy time. So we are proposing that for venues B to D, there is a trial 12-month period of off-peak rates of 30% reductions in fees and charges from that period. And you can see you can see the significant decrease in the right column in terms of percentage decrease from the proposed fees and venues, with variable rates according to their classification. And this is similar rates for not-for-profit for the off-peak trial for the next 12 months. So outcomes, as I have touched upon, this very much places the confusing and complicated per venue structure with clear, consistent rates. In many cases, this is simply a reclassification or simplification of fees rather than introducing new charges. Some higher quality or higher demand venues have been increased to reflect market value. And we have also introduced, as mentioned, a proposed trial for off-peak rates from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. to increase community uptake and community usage. Alongside this, we have also been looking at the physical nature of the venues and community halls. As mentioned, I've just got a few key call-outs here. Malabar Memorial Hall will see some pretty significant improvements in next financial year. And the IT team have started to look at every venue within B, C and D for improving AV upgrades, which includes accessible Wi-Fi, television screens and HDMI and Bluetooth connectivity. And we're also looking at improving cleaning and amenity in those spaces. The creative fit-out of the town hall is something we are looking at. We are now just looking at a review of the town hall takeover and the type of performance and creative usages that building has encouraged and fostered. Given it's a state-listed building and some of this fit-out is quite significant, this will require some time to investigate and no doubt some associated budget, and we will keep council informed of what that proposed creative fit-out will be as part of the capital improvements plan. And lastly, the two new venues, Kenzo Underground is based at the Scape Kensington building, and it's a purpose fit out, unique multiple purpose hire space with beautiful AV. It is underground, but it's there's a lot of opportunity for creative, innovative arts and creative use, as well as community hire. And diagonally across the road, the new Innovation Hub is a really stunning space based on the, WeWork and Fishburners type of innovation hubs, where we'll be tapping into the 24-hour working economy and looking at making these venues available out of hours for those that would like to work in the hermetic space but still be in a community working on research, startups, innovation, and also tapping into the local sort of think tank community in that area as well. So there are, of course, risks with these new fees and charges. Some would be that the current users are disrupted. We will liaise with all long-term and current users to inform them of the changes, and where possible and appropriate, we will liaise with particularly those at the Randwick Literary Institute, for example, to explore an incremental introduction of fees, allowing a grandfather, gender specific, a grandparenting process for moving into the full rate over potentially 3 years. Whether these new fees and charges have a detrimental impact on the annual operational budget, this has been rigorously looked at by our amazing finance team, and we can ensure that there's no impact on the bottom line. Lastly, that the new fees and venues are not keeping up with the condition of the venues, and as mentioned, we have a staged rollout of improving facilities, including AV, and we'll be also looking at a communications campaign to make sure that A, everyone is excited about our incredible portfolio, B, that council knows how much community love it and we will improve them on a continual basis, and C, here's the portal and this is your much simplified portal to book these new spaces. So next steps will be, as mentioned, continual improvements to improve the customer experience and continuing to improve the audio-visual access and condition of facilities to ensure that council continues to deliver an amazing program and we really profile and continue to really get our amazing venues halls out there for community. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question from Councillor Rosenfeld. I think go to Councillor Beach.
Just a couple of questions. One is for the Maroubra senior citizens. There was a resolution to fix the amenities area because it was fairly old and dysfunctional. Has that been done at this stage? You can answer that and I'll answer the second.
Sorry, if you'd like to do it, I'll throw it to the Director of City Services.
I would love for the Director of City Services to answer that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mr Mayor, those works are currently funded and they're being programmed as we speak.
Thank you. The second question is, do we consider the Electoral Commission, both the Australian Electoral Commission and the New South Wales Electoral Commission, as a non-for-profit in their hiring fee, or are they a regular category there?
Would you like me to throw that to the Director of Corporate Services, or would you like to answer that?
I would also love the Director of Corporate Services.
Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. No, they pay full freight. They're not.
Thank you. Are there any... Sorry. General Manager.
And then they charge us for it.
Thank you. It's all the money go around. Councillor Veach.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of questions. So it's great to hear that the B and C classified community halls will be getting the AV upgrades. Will the A ones be getting them also, or have they already happened? And also, is the sort of arts and cultural quite heavy discounts still being applied to Randwick Town Hall?
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Manager.
Thank you. Through to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. Two excellent questions. The first answer is yes, the classification A venues are being updated as we speak. Prince Henry is getting a significant audio-visual improvement that should be completed by the end of this financial year. So we are improving that. Randwick Town Hall will be looked at for audio-visual upgrade, and it will be part of that assessment of balancing that with creative use. And sorry, what's the second question? Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Veitch, could you just repeat your second question?
It was about the creative subsidies of Town Hall. But do we have AV, like, I know we have one at Kensington, we have one at the Matraville Town Hall. Is there AV? I haven't been to Coogee for a while, or any of the North or Central Ward. Is there AV in any of our halls there?
To the manager.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor. So in terms of the AV across the North Ward, yes, we are improving those as part of the general rollout. So we are looking at that. And the creative access is continuing. It's been very successful in 25-26, and it is included in the draft operational plan and budget, and we will continue to promote.
Councillor Luxford, I'll then go to Councillor Sitt.
Just a question regarding the Scape Dungeon. We weren't able to hold a meeting there because we couldn't get reception, or I'm not sure whatever the case was, because I was never stepping foot in there anyway. Has that been sorted? Like, I noticed we're charging $85 to go into the underground dungeon with no windows, no nothing. Of course, I think we were had because we were supposed to be able to hold wonderful shows in the Scape building in this community centre room that we were going to get, and then after that go for a walk and have our gelato down the Boulevard Anzac. Quite clearly that's not going to happen in the dungeon, but have the issues been sorted? If we're charging rent for the dungeon?
To the manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can confirm that the final handover and occupancy of that venue has been handed out to council, and it is ready for hire. We are now looking at an operational model based on the fees and charges from the 1st of July.
So the issues have been sorted or not been sorted? Like, if we're renting it out, can people use equipment that we quite clearly couldn't?
Through to the manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can confirm that all the issues that were identified during the handover process have been signed off, and any further issues that may arise will be on the responsibility of the owner and landlord. But yes, my understanding is that they have all been resolved. However, will take on notice the question about AV, and we'll come back to you on any issues relating to that particular issue.
Councillor Sitt.
Just two questions. Firstly, does this run in conjunction with the fees and charges of the budget, or is it actually part of the fees and charges, or is it run
through to the general manager?
Yes, this was what you looked at last council.
So these figures are
yes.
That's one question. And the second question is, I noticed that the Matraville Youth and Cultural Centre and also the Malabar Library are probably one of only they're the two out of only a few that have actually gone up and quite big increases.
Yeah.
And I noticed too that you also mentioned that there is a part of the risk factor is that we might grandfather these ones that had increase, considering they're the ones that did have a large increase. What will be the consideration to grandfather the incremental payment period? Is there a payment period? In other words, do we have one in mind, and do we have people that will get the discount and other people who won't? Is that part of the plan? Is that actually being thought out? Is that part of the fees and charges? Or is that only just a risk mitigation in case someone complains?
Through to the manager.
Thank you, Councillor. To answer your first question, those two venues have gone up by some degree, given that the Matraville Youth and Cultural Hall was operating below market rate, and also had quite a conservative rate to begin with while we implemented that hall. And the other venue, I think, has been improved to align with the median charge in that area. For the grandfathering period, that will be for those particular users. Predominantly, we're looking at the Randwick Literary Institute first, who have not had any fees and charges changed over 8 or 9 years due to a different management model. It's now been brought in line with the way we manage the other venues. All other regular users will have extensive and early consultation in terms of information coming up for that, and then we will liaise with those who do reach out.
Thank you. There being no further questions, thank you very much. I'll now put the question that the report be read and noted. All those in favour? All those against? Declare that carried. Thank you. There being no further business, thank you very much, Roxanne. Thank you, well done. I declare the Governance Advisory Committee on the 12th of May 2026 closed. Thank you.